in the case of U.S. Army versus Sergeant Robert B. Bergdahl. The military judge discussed the rights held by the accused, inquired on the record regarding current military counsel and civilian counsel. Sergeant Bergdahl indicated he was satisfied with his defense counsel.
Well, it's Colonel Daniel King discussing the first court appearance of Army Sergeant Bowe Bergdahl, who faces charges of desertion and endangering his fellow soldiers. Bergdahl chose to defer his plea. He also deferred a decision whether he will be tried by a military judge or what would be a panel similar to a jury. Bergdahl left his post, was captured by the Taliban, held for 5 years, and was released as a result of a controversial exchange for 5 Taliban detainees from Gitmo last year. For more, we welcome former CIA analyst Fred Fleitz, who's the Senior Vice President for Policy and Programs at the Center for Security Policy. Also joining us, former Michigan Congressman Pete Hoekstra. He's currently the Shillman Senior Fellow at the Investigative Project on Terrorism. Pete, also the author of Architects of Disaster, The Destruction of Libya. Welcome to you both. Well, Pete, you were the ranking member of the House Intelligence Committee when Bowe Bergdahl walked away from his base in 2009. You know this case. Some say 5 years in Taliban captivity is enough. Others want him to spend significant time behind bars. What's your thought on the trial?
Oh, I think that he really needs to go through a trial. Remember, this was a decision that he made voluntarily. He left his post, went off the base, fully expecting that he's going to be captured by the Taliban. He chose his life for the next 5 years. He endangered fellow American soldiers, coalition troops. Some may have been killed searching for him and trying to get him back. And then the coup de grace is when the United States frees 5 Taliban prisoners to get him back. Now, he needs to go through the judicial process, and I hope and expect that he will spend an extended period of time behind bars.
Fred, you were really critical of the Obama administration back in 2014 for that trade. What are your thoughts of this case?
Well, I've heard some people say that Bergdahl was a disturbed individual, a lost soul. But I agree with Congressman Hoekstra. This is someone who broke the law, who put other American soldiers at risk. American soldiers may, and I think probably were, killed looking for him. And I think he deserves a fair trial. It is my hope he will serve a lengthy prison sentence.
Back to some international relations. John Kerry facing a lot of backlash from Republicans after sending a letter to Iran advising the country's rulers not to worry about new visa waiver requirements, which require anyone who travels to Iran, Syria, and Sudan to obtain a visa before entering the United States. However, Iran says those new restrictions violate the nuclear agreement. Now, a number of members of Congress are upset about John Kerry promising Iran that executive powers can be used to waive the new visa restrictions. We talk about it on Newsmax.com. And I wanted to get your take, Pete Hoekstra. Is there anything Congress can do to keep the visa restrictions in place against Iran?
Really, the only tool that they have at this point, because they've passed this legislation, is public opinion. This is absolutely outrageous what Secretary Kerry is suggesting. Iran is still one of the leading sponsors of terrorism, and we're going to let Iranians come into America easier than other countries. They fund Hezbollah. They fund Hamas. This is kind of like we're talking to our best friends in Europe, the French or the Brits or someone like that. No, we're talking to Iran. And Iran, after they've gotten their nuclear deal, they continue to fund terrorism. They have not fundamentally changed their behavior, and we're saying, we're going to make it easier for you to get in here. That's absolutely wrong. It's the power of public opinion, and if it's even possible, to embarrass this administration.
Yeah, I want to get to the next topic, but real quickly, Fred, I know you've written extensively about the Iran deal.
No, I agree. And the sad thing is that legislation like this always has a waiver so the president can waive the law on national security grounds. So I agree with Congressman Hoekstra. We can only shame this president. I'm afraid Congress can't stop him from issuing a waiver.
Well, the UK appears to be breaking from the U.S. when it comes to the Muslim Brotherhood, calling it a terrorist group. And Pete, the Obama administration condemned the UK's report on the Muslim Brotherhood, saying that pushing back against the organization would lead to the radicalization of some of its followers. Your reaction?
Hey, everything that you do against radical Islam becomes a new recruiting tool. My hats are off to the Brits. They said the Muslim Brotherhood is a terrorist organization that the values of the Muslim Brotherhood are inconsistent with the values of the UK, that they condone violence, and that if you are an individual or an organization affiliated or associated with the Muslim Brotherhood, that should be a key indicator to identify you as someone who may be prone to be radicalized. Wow, what a great statement coming from the UK, and we are embracing the Muslim Brotherhood here in the United States.
Pete, we're going to have to leave it right there.
Yep.
Thank you so much. Appreciate the insight. Pete Hoekstra, the author of Architects of Disaster, The Destruction of Libya. Coming up next, Dennis Michael Lynch with an amazing statistic concerning immigration expenses. That's straight ahead here on Newsmax Prime.